Oki, Naranastada, Ambawastich, Tanse, and good morning, everyone. I've been starting the day with these Indigenous greetings to honor the Treaty 7 peoples who stewarded our water at the confluence of the Bow and Elbow Rivers for generations before many of us settled here. I'd like to thank Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver and City of Calgary General Manager Michael Thompson for joining me today. Today is a very big day for more than 1/3 of Alberta's population that live here in Calgary and the surrounding communities of Airdrie, Chestermere, Strathmore, and Tsuut'ina Nation. All of you rely on the City of Calgary to provide safe drinking water to your homes, water to wash your dishes, to do your laundry, and so much more. And today I am pleased to tell you that we are one giant step closer to restoring full water usage to all of you. Just over 2 weeks ago, I signed a state of local emergency and delivered heavy news that we were in a water crisis. I shared that our city operations team had provided a 3 to 5 week timeline to get water flowing as it normally would to the taps in our homes and our businesses. That was difficult news to deliver, and I know it was difficult news to hear. I vowed to take any action needed to aggressively speed up the timeline, and I'm relieved to say that today we can deliver some much needed good news. I'm incredibly pleased to share that indoor water use can now return to normal. And we look forward to slowly restoring outdoor water use as we continue to monitor the system's stabilization process. A quick overview of what changed since yesterday to allow us to return to regular indoor water usage today. First, we had 3 crews working all day yesterday to flush water through hydrants to reduce turbidity in the system. That's to reduce the cloudiness that some of you saw in your water. Turbidity levels are coming down and they're trending in the right direction. Next, with production safely increasing at the Bearspaw water treatment plant, we're able to perform some critical maintenance that's needed at the Glenmore water treatment plant. And lastly, the Bearspaw feeder main has now been brought up to 50% capacity, and we continue to stabilize the system by listening for irregularities and measuring pressure changes. Calgary, I am in absolute awe of the work that all of you did for the last 26 days. For almost an entire month, you have gone above and beyond. You have gone above and beyond. A little excited today, to keep our water usage low, and you ensured that we had safe drinking water during this crisis, and that our firefighters, doctors, and nurses were never without the water they needed to do their jobs. And I cannot thank you enough for every action that you have taken. I want to thank the residents of Bowness for carrying the extra burden at the beginning of this crisis. I won't forget my visits to your community during those first few days. You had a major impact on me. I felt the full impact of your situation as I spoke with you, and your community spirit fired me up to push for better and faster solutions to this crisis. I must also thank our crews and our teams at the Emergency Operations Center and the Water Tactical Operations Center. They worked tirelessly day and night throughout this challenging period to get the water feeder main fixed, water flow fully restored, and information out to the public. Chief Sue Henry and General Manager Michael Thompson, your personal dedication has been unwavering, and on behalf of the entire Calgary region, we say thank you. When just over a week into this crisis, we discovered the bad news that we needed to repair more of the pipe than just the break, several people stepped up to help expedite repairs, like Minister McIver, who's been a sounding board throughout all of this. Like Calgary's oil and gas community. So many of you stepped up to offer guidance when I called and texted you on June the 6th, and again on the evening of June the 14th when we found out about those 5 trouble spots. I'm grateful that we had your depth of experience, your commitment to the city, and ideas for expediting repairs at a time when we needed it the most. To all the contractors, the tradespeople, and organizations that made themselves available immediately for dewatering, excavation, and repair work, we could not have done this without all of you. I also have to thank San Diego for the pipes that were sent our way, and all of the notable people and businesses in the Calgary region who lent your voices to water-saving efforts by offering words of encouragement on social media. Everyone from Brett the Hitman Hart to Connor at Local Laundry to the whole Calgary Stampeders organization and so many more. Sometimes it takes a crisis to remind us how much we can accomplish if communities, elected officials, and governments work together. I was reminded of the value of the strength of these partnerships over the last 26 days. In particular, the province was there for us, Calgary. Alberta Health Services provided water testing at several critical points, including during the initial break when their ongoing testing enabled us to lift the boil water advisory for the community of Bowness on the 10th of June, providing those residents with peace of mind that their water was safe once again. And most recently, as we flushed the system following the repair work, Alberta Environment and Protected Areas stepped up to provide non-potable water for construction companies as well as for residents wanting to keep their plants and trees alive. They also provided guidelines for and monitoring of the flushed water to ensure that chlorine was properly removed from the water before it went back into the river, as well as slope stabilization. Alberta Occupational Health and Safety provided quick clearance for return to work after being on site immediately following the incident that injured 2 men, and I am relieved to report that both men are now recovering. The province's Emergency Management Committee of Cabinet was critical support and counsel on the evening of June the 14th as we made the decision that a state of local emergency was essential to resolving this crisis as quickly and efficiently and safely as possible. And of course, the gentleman next to me today and his team. Municipal Affairs Minister Rick McIver has stood with me for the last 26 days. Minister was on standby throughout this emergency, available for calls at all hours to discuss progress and to brainstorm ideas, including having provincial wildfire crews and equipment staged for fire emergency suppression when we had a grass fire situation in early days. Minister McIver, thank you for having our back, and I will now turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Gondek. It's a good day today. It's nice to be here, and thank you all for joining us. It's with great gratitude and, frankly, a little bit of relief that I'm with you here today to recognize the expeditious work that's been undertaken to fix the Bowness water main and to thank Calgarians for their efforts in conserving water for these last 4 weeks. I also acknowledge we're not completely out of the woods yet. In times of crisis, the strengths of partnership become evident. The recent water infrastructure incident in Bowness served as a stark reminder of this. From the onset, the Mayor reached out to Premier Smith and myself and kept us updated regularly. Alberta's Emergency Management Agency, which has members embedded in Calgary Emergency Management Agency, also ensured constant, direct communication between each of our experts at the province and in Calgary. Finally, our Emergency Management Cabinet connected regularly with the Mayor and her team. These levels of communication were pivotal in addressing the immediate needs of community communication, support, and advice. I'd like to acknowledge the different provincial ministries' support throughout these past 4 weeks. Alberta Health Services played a crucial role conducting initial and ongoing water testing to manage and eventually lift the boil water advisory by the ambitious target of June 10th. Their dedication ensured public health remained paramount through the recovery process. Alberta Environment and Parks, as the Mayor alluded to, stepped up to provide additional water licenses for non-potable water uses during repairs, accompanied by strict guidelines and monitoring to safeguard environmental integrity. Their efforts in dechlorinization and slope stabilization during water flushing underscore their commitment and our government's commitment to sustainable practices. The Alberta Occupational Health and Safety Team swiftly reviewed the work site following the unfortunate injuries, ensuring safety protocols were reinforced before granting clearance to resume work. This exemplifies their dedication to protect workers' well-being in challenging environments while recognizing the need for water for 1.5 million citizens in Calgary. Recognizing the proactive measures taken by Alberta Emergency Management Agency and Alberta Wildfire, who staged supplementary fire suppression resources in Calgary's forested areas, illustrates our commitment to preemptive action and community safety. I must commend my colleagues in Emergency Management Cabinet for their rapid response and willing to basically drop everything and pay attention to Calgary's needs during this time. Their ability to convene at short notice ensured seamless information flow in both directions and provided invaluable support to the city in declaring a state of local emergency when that was really required. I also recognize Mayor Gondek for her leadership throughout this ordeal. Her commitment to transparent communication with the public, advocating for realistic timelines, and declaring a state of emergency when it was necessary have been instrumental in getting us to this day. I'm grateful for her initiative in mobilizing private sector experts who contributed crews, ideas, and support to get the job done. Mayor Gondek, thank you. Thank you as well to all the private sector experts that reached out to my office and to the city that were able to connect and help. Times like these truly remind us what community is all about. I appreciate the Mayor's recent motion for an independent incident review and secure clear budget numbers. I'm sure preserving the integrity of Calgary's water system is top of mind for all Calgarians, as it is for Council. In closing, on behalf of Premier Smith and the Government of Alberta, I extend heartfelt thanks to Calgarians and our regional neighbors for their solidarity, support, and patience during this challenging time. Your resilience and understanding have been indispensable. Together, and only together, we have demonstrated that in the face of adversity, collaboration and determination can overcome any obstacle. And as we charge ahead into Stampede, Yahoo! Let us continue to build on this spirit of partnership and mutual support for the betterment of our communities. Thank you. And now I'd like to, General Manager invite Michael Thompson to say some words.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Minister McIver and Mayor. As shared by the Mayor, we are now able to ease indoor water saving measures. We know this is an exciting milestone after almost a month of Calgarians practicing water conservation measures in their homes and businesses. Just as we are easing into lifting restrictions, we need Calgarians to ease into their water use within their homes. The Bearspaw South feeder main is now back in service for the first time since June the 5th. The feeder main is operating at 50% capacity as we continue to stabilize the system, and we need to reduce the demand we have placed on the Glenmore Water Treatment Plant over the last month. We need Calgarian support to avoid providing too much strain on the system. This means being thoughtful about spreading out your water use needs, like not doing all your waiting laundry in one day, but instead doing one load a day for the coming days. We continue to monitor the feeder main, listening for breaks and measuring pressure changes. The system is responding well so far, and we have not heard any anomalies. I want to stress that outdoor Stage 4 water restrictions remain in place. More information on easing outdoor water restrictions will be shared in the coming days as we determine how the system responds to the increased demand. Operational teams will provide more information on what easing indoor water use means for Calgarians and businesses at today's media availability at the Emergency Operations Centre. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize the city teams and the contract crews who made this repair possible and people who continue to work around the clock to stabilize the system. This truly has been all hands on deck, with teams working 24/7 over the last month to maintain our safe drinking water system while we repaired this critical feeder main. We've had the opportunity to work with various industry professionals and water service partners from across North America, and the connections we have established and enhanced have been extremely beneficial. Throughout response and repair, Calgary Emergency Management Agency have provided their leadership and guidance. They've facilitated response support through agency partnerships like those we heard about with the province of Alberta today and numerous others. Through CEMA's expertise bringing together City of Calgary departments, external agencies, nonprofit organizations, non-governmental organizations, and community partners, we know we have access to expertise required for a safe and effective approach. I've had the opportunity to work alongside these emergency management professionals at the Emergency Operations Centre for the past several weeks, and their leadership has been integral in the response for Calgarians. We understand that easing indoor water saving measures is a milestone, and we're all looking forward to it. Your commitment to conserving water throughout this response has been admirable, and we still depend on you as we stabilize the system and ease into further restrictions. Thank you for your patience in continuing to step up as we navigate these restrictions. Your resilience and community spirit are admirable, and we truly are all stronger together. And I'll now turn it back over to the Mayor.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you, GM Thompson. Michael, I've greatly appreciated the ability to be able to connect with you throughout this situation, no matter what time of day, and your professionalism in guiding us through repair and recovery was just wonderful. Calgary, we've been through a lot together since June the 5th. I want you to know that I am committed to learning from this crisis, and I would like to share some of those learnings with you and talk about how I plan to action some of these takeaways. To start, let's talk about communication. We struggled with our communication over the first 3 days as the city learned the enormity of this situation and focused more on the work than on the communication. I realized the impact of this error, as I've said many times, when I visited Bowness on the 8th of June. That afternoon, I called CAO David Duckworth and said, we must do better. The morning of the 9th of June, I apologized for this oversight and I committed to twice daily briefings until water flow was restored from the Bearspaw water treatment plant. The next focus became collaboration. Because we had already engaged with external experts in construction and trades in addressing the main break that occurred on June 5th, we knew that this situation required partnerships. So by the time we learned the bad news and shared it with you on the 14th of June, that robotic technology had detected 5 additional hotspots that needed to be repaired, I knew further collaboration was critical in making sure we could get to repairs quickly and safely to restore water flow. Working late into that evening, I spoke with the province and also reached out to private sector experts who were then invited to roundtable discussions with myself, General Manager Thompson, and others. This collaborative effort was critical in moving the timeline up safely and efficiently. Throughout this situation, I also knew that, like me, Calgarians wanted and deserved answers to what went wrong. I called for a comprehensive third-party review of the incident, which I expect to cover exactly what happened to the pipe, the steps taken to fix the problem, and a review of the city's response to this water crisis. This review will also look at our issues around communication that led to Calgarians and our neighboring communities not getting the information they needed quickly when they needed it. And I promise we will get to the bottom of all these issues. We need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. While we have already taken steps to improve monitoring and ensure that we have the supplies on hand to fix the system should we experience any problems, we need to do more. 2 weeks ago, at my 8:30 a.m. update, I promised a wide-ranging examination of the city's underground infrastructure. I committed to working with City Council to ensure that there's enough of a budget to run a thorough inspection of all underground water pipes and address maintenance and upgrading needs. Going forward, I will be asking important questions to find out what we need in the budget so we can ensure we have the technology and inspection methods required to fully understand at all times the state of our water infrastructure. I've also committed to take our learnings and advocate for all municipalities across Canada. We need a national push to ensure that funding is available to fix and replace vital infrastructure before we see more catastrophic failures. As I said before, if this can happen in Calgary, it can happen anywhere. I'll be able to turn my attention to this shortly after we are able to come out of this crisis and lift the state of local emergency later this week. We'll be able to do so if all continues to go well. Until then, please ease yourself into regular water use in your homes and remember that outdoor water restrictions still apply, as does the fire ban. We will get word to you when those are being lifted. Thank you all for watching today, and thank you to our media partners for sharing the details of this important story with everyone in the Calgary region, day in and day out for the last 26 days. And we'll take your questions in just one moment. To close, I'll ask again that we gently return to regular indoor water use. A long shower and clean laundry are top of the list for so many of you, and I would just say that you ease back into those things. And an important reminder, the outdoor water restrictions and fire ban are still in effect, and you will receive regular updates through the team at the Calgary Emergency Management Agency about when those restrictions will ease back to regular. Please be patient so we can get the system working to full capacity without any additional issues. Finally, going forward, I'm going to leave future updates in the very capable hands of Chief Sue Henry, who will keep you informed through the Emergency Operations Center. I've appreciated being able to provide you with information every morning, and this will be my last morning update with you. Also important, today's afternoon update at the Emergency Operations Center has been moved up. It will take place at 12:15 p.m. today instead of the regular timing of 2 p.m. They will provide more details about how the water system is being returned to full capacity. I want to thank you all again for being good people, for banding together and cutting your water use, and for understanding that we are much stronger when we look out for each other. And with that, I will turn things over to Adam Toy to manage questions from the media.
All right, folks, one question, one follow-up to start for any of our speakers here. Hannah with the city.
Mayor, why is Calgary still in a state of emergency when things are going well and we are removing the indoor water restrictions?
So the state of local emergency, when it was declared, was specifically for two reasons. Firstly, we needed to access private property, portions of it, to be able to do the repair work that was needed on 5 of those hotspots. And secondly, if we needed to procure anything outside of regular standards, we were able to do so. Because we're still in the monitoring stage and we are still making sure that everything is good to go, that state of local emergency remains in place. It will be expiring on Thursday, and we will have more information from Chief Sue Henry about whether it needs to be renewed or whether it can be lifted entirely.
Mr. McIver, is the province giving money to the City of Calgary for the repair work?
I don't think we have committed to that. Now, it's been 14 years since I've been at the city, but my recollection is that the city has a very strong rate base with utilities, including I think is a pretty robust capital replacement program. Now, this is going to be clearly a big hit on the capital replacement reserve, whatever the reserves are, but there's no commitment at this point to do that, and yeah, that's where it stands today.
Michael Cole.
So, Mayor, you're asking Calgarians to slowly ramp up. If Calgarians turn on the taps and overnight we go back up to 100% of our normal water usage, how would the system be able to handle that, and how confident are you that we wouldn't see the system fail?
I have a lot of faith that Calgarians have understood over the last 26 days what we needed to do to keep our water system running and getting water to all of our homes. And I continue to have that faith that Calgarians will understand we need to ease back into regular use. So while we probably will see an increase in water usage, I'm very hopeful that people understand that staggering their laundry is still something that would be very beneficial. And if we need to come back and provide reminders to folks to conserve water, I know that Chief Sue Henry and her team will be doing that at the regular updates.
Well, do you hope that moving forward, even after everything's repaired, that Calgarians kind of keep this in mind for months and years to come when it comes to water usage? Because it really has been something that a lot of people haven't thought about in the past to this extent.
I think the biggest thing is that Calgarians and members of our region rely heavily on us to be able to provide safe, clean drinking water to their homes for all types of uses. And I think restoring that service was just such a focus for all of us that we were willing to do our part in reducing water usage. I can tell you in all my conversations with people out in community, people have reflected that they never stopped to think how much water was being wasted as they were running the shower to get it to warm up, or just leaving the tap running to get it to cool down. So I think people have learned a lot about the value and importance of water, and I'll be interested to see what kind of practices people carry on with.
Scott, CBC.
For Minister McIver, just to clarify on the money issue, is that your comments sort of the wider scope of things as opposed to the emergency? I know the city has reached out to other orders of government for assistance with the situation. Can you clarify?
Listen, I've always said I'm never offended when municipalities ask for more money for infrastructure. We can't always say yes, but it's when the mayor or any other municipal official asks their province or their federal government for more money, they're just doing their job right. I remember a period of time when I was on city council and I was part of a chorus always asking the province and the federal government for more money, and that was doing the job right as I understand it, knowing that the answer can't always be yes. But let me say this, I guess I haven't been here for 14 years, but my recollection is the city had a pretty robust rate structure for utilities like water and wastewater, and including I think a pretty respectable capital replacement program. But on the wider issue, nobody has enough money, including municipalities. And when Calgary or any other municipality asks us for more money, I know they're just doing their job right out of concern for their citizens, and we will continue to collaborate on these things as we go forward. Some days they'll like their answer, and other days they won't.
And to follow up, Minister, the work that's been going through this whole situation between the city and the province, I know that there's some recent legislative changes. On the emergency measures side of things, has that been merely consultative, or has that been required of the city in terms of the amount of information and any decisions from the province?
I would say it's been collaborative. The mayor correctly characterized we got each other on speed dial the last few weeks. Just because it's been important, there's been several ministries within our government that have stepped up and made resources helpful to the city, which is part of our job. Part of the city's job is to let us know what they need and to see what we can help with. I think that worked, I would say, fairly smoothly and as seamlessly as we could. I mean, this is a surprise to everybody when this happened. Pipe that was supposed to last 100 years lasted 50. That's what I would characterize as a surprise. But I think everybody jumped in as best we could and as fast as we could to be cooperative and helpful, and consequently we've gotten to this day.
Question for the mayor. So Mayor, who does foot the bill for this? I mean, obviously, we haven't had an update on cost, but who is going to foot the bill on this? Do Calgarians expect their water bills to look differently following this situation?
So the number one thing will be to collect all of the information we need about how much expenditure took place on addressing this crisis. I know that Chief Sue Henry and her team are tracking all of those expenses. Once we have that number, we will be looking at what resources we have available right now, whether there are contingencies in place or reserves that we can access to help pay for that. But again, this is something that we will have more information on in the coming days.
Mayor, the minister had mentioned that he believes Calgary has a robust capital placement plan and a robust rate structure to be able to cover this. Do you agree that Calgary can cover this, or do you need the province?
So we do set our rates in a way that addresses the idea of maintenance and upgrades and regular service. So I know the water teams work very diligently to make sure appropriate rates are set. Again, without knowing what the total tally is of expenditures on this issue, I can't speculate on whether we have enough to cover it through contingencies or existing budget. Once again, the teams at Water Services, Emergency Operations Center, and General Manager Thompson will have more information on what we have and where we may need some assistance.
And for the minister, you had mentioned that this was a surprise. It was a 100-year pipe that lasted 50 years. There are tons of this pipe across the province, across North America. How will you, as the Minister of Municipal Affairs, address the potential for similar problems in most likely smaller and less well-off municipalities?
Well, it will be probably an issue because of the size of Calgary, particularly the largest city in Alberta. I would suggest that there's probably not a lot of municipalities with the same size of pipe as the one that failed here, but all pipes will fail. That's a fact. When you put a piece of pipe in the ground, the only thing you know for sure is that someday it will fail. That's that's a fact of life. So yeah, no, I think it's a wake up call for us too, or a reminder, if you will, to encourage municipalities, to the ones that can, to have capital replacement reserves in place, recognizing that smaller municipalities, in many cases, don't have the capacity to do that. And in fact, we have water and wastewater programs through our transportation ministry to assist the smaller municipalities with that, knowing that by sheer number of people versus the cost of the infrastructure, that they may never be able to fully pay for that forever. We have programs to help the smaller municipalities to do that.
Jordan, CTV.
Yeah, either for the mayor or Jim Thompson, just looking for clarity on the restrictions. Obviously, indoor water restrictions are being eased, outdoors still in place for now. What does this mean for businesses that were asked to dial back, or the city asked to dial back when it comes to maybe a car wash or those type of businesses? What are they supposed to do at this in-between point?
So let me start with the overview, and then I'll ask General Manager Thompson to weigh in. What we can tell you right now is that the reductions that you have been doing at home are not needed anymore. So you can return to using water inside your home the way that you were used to. We are asking that people ease into this, though, so we can continue to make sure that we've got enough water supply for everyone. When it comes to businesses, I'll turn it over to General Manager Thompson.
Thank you. Our team at the Calgary Emergency Management Agency is reaching out right now to all of those business partners that we had connected with to ask them to ease some of their indoor water use. And so things like car washes will be reopening today. Indoor pools will be reopening today. And so we're actively reaching out to all of those partners right now. And we'll have more details at today's media availability at the Emergency Operations Center.
I do, actually. This is for the minister, and it's mostly unrelated, if I may ask a question for my colleague. Edmonton's mayor says the province ended 2023 with a $4.3 billion surplus due in part to underfunding to municipalities, and Mayor Sohi says Edmonton is seeing a significant decline in infrastructure funding and reduction in grants from the province. It says the province is refusing to pay their fair share of property taxes. What do you say to these allegations, and have you or the premier sat down with the mayor to discuss the funding model and any possible changes?
Yeah, we have talked to Edmonton about their funding requests. And to be perfectly clear, we don't pay property tax. No government pays tax to another government. We do have a program called Grants in Place of Taxes, which currently we pay at 50% of what property tax would be. But to be perfectly clear, we don't pay property tax. Never have and never will, I don't believe.
Anybody else with other questions? Carrie?
Yeah, I have a question on the rules right now. You said the indoor restrictions are lifted, but also please don't do all your laundry at once. Please ease back into this. Which is it?
So you can use your water regularly indoors, but I am asking Calgarians to consider using it a little bit in an eased manner. So if you have 4 loads of laundry you need to get done, I would say rather than doing it all today, if you could space it out over the week. So we have lifted any reductions that we have asked for indoors, but I'm appealing to people's good sense to ease into what they normally would be doing.
Darren?
I have a question for Jim Thompson. We're at 50% capacity in the Bearspaw line. Can you kind of walk through what it looks like to bring the rest of the 50 up, and sort of, is it just more of the same, or is there anything different that you're doing with this back half?
Yeah, right now we're just listening to the pipe. So we have monitors in place, and we're listening to see if we hear any indications of anomalies within the pipe. We're measuring pressures to see how the pipe's reacting as we put more water through. This is very similar as we met with some of our roundtable colleagues in the oil and gas industry. When they have a pipe that has a break and they bring it back into service, they slowly ease it back in, and they don't run it at the maximum capacity right away. And so that's the similar methodology we had. We were happy to know that that aligned with what private sector partners would be doing. And so we're just slowly easing it back in, and that's a measure of turning on different pumps at the Bearspaw water treatment plant. As we turn on different pumps, we move more water through that pipe, and we're just measuring how it's reacting, and we'll continue to do that in the coming weeks.
I have a question for the minister. I'm not sure if you can answer it. It's probably environment protected areas, but with regard to the water licenses, with the temporary restrictions or the indoor water saving measures being eased, do you know if there's going to be any change to the temporary water licenses, or did they have an end date that was prescribed? Do you know how that's going to work?
No. You know what? That's Minister Schultz deals with that stuff, and well, I know that she's been very helpful, or as helpful as they could be, and as quickly as they could be throughout this thing. I've been kind of busy enough with my own details to not knowing that her mind and her ministry's mind was in the game, and working with the city and our other municipalities across the province was enough for me. But the finer details, I don't mean to disappoint you, but probably you would want to go to the Minister Schultz and her ministry to get those answers.
Two more, Scott.
Or GM Thompson. Just with regards to the work that will be happening at the Glenmore Water Treatment Plant, can you just talk a bit about that? Does that mean a shutdown, or is it reduced capacity for a period of time? Just tell us more about the parameters of that, please.
Yeah, so the Glenmore Water Treatment Plant has been operating at a very high load for the last month. And so we need to start to slow that down. And so we're going to reduce the production coming out of the Glenmore Water Treatment Plant. Those pumps have all been going nonstop, and we haven't had the ability to go and do some of the regular maintenance that we've needed to do at that plant. So we'll reduce the production coming out of that plant so we can go in and do that maintenance this week. And it's just part of bringing the Bearspaw water feeder main back into service and reducing the production at Glenmore to a more regular rate.
Okay, but it remains in operation. It's at a reduced rate. It's not being shut down for a week or something.
It remains in operation, and I'm extremely grateful to the crews that have kept that plant running the way it is. I was talking to someone who went by there the other day, and they said that the parking lot was full. There was a ton of activity, and they've never seen so many people at the at the Glenmore Water Treatment Plant. That's because the crews have been working 24/7 to keep Calgary having safe, clean drinking water. We need to slow that plant down and do that regular maintenance now.
Mike?
Just to follow up, you'd mentioned indoor pools are reopening today. Does that, you got to fill them? What does it mean for classes? Because that's one of the biggest concerns parents have had is for the classes for the kids.
We'll have more information at the media availability at the Emergency Operations Center today, but we are reaching out to all of the indoor pool facilitators to let them know about this change and that they can start to use their facilities going forward. We understand different facilities have different ramp-up times, and so the teams have been talking to them throughout.
Minister, the way that you had phrased your answer on funding, does the province is the province likely to help Calgary if this bill is?
I am sure that the province will hear from the city at some point in the future, and when we do, we will carefully consider their request. But I'm not going to make a promise today that I'm not sure that that we can say yes to, but we're certainly aware this is an unexpected expense. I don't know. I think it's a fairly easy guess that it'll be a large one. And yeah, we always listen to their requests carefully, and when we get a request based on whatever's happening now, we'll listen to that carefully also.
Do you expect to be able to help? Or like, it seems like this is.
I know your job is to get me to commit to something that I can't commit to, but I'm not going to do that. Again, we've worked in collaboration and partnership with the city throughout this thing. They've been wonderful to work with. We've tried to be helpful to them. And one thing about it, the city's going to ask us for more money, if not for this, for something else. Probably both. Like the city, you're going to have to wait for that.
All right, if that's everything, thank you so much, folks. Just a reminder, 12:15 at the EOC for more of a technical press briefing. Thank you so much.